storylines that has emanated from the recent state Republican convention that happened this past weekend was the fact that certain individuals want to blame Party Chairman Jim Pallura for electoral defeat here at the polls in Maryland in November's general election. And of course, a lot of that is ruminating from the Andy Harris campaign. And once again, I think Andy Harris is going out of his way to prove how ineffective of a leader he is. What Senator Harris seems to not understand is that when you were a leader, you have to take responsibility for your own shortcomings. A lot of the problem that Andy Harris had, a lot of the reason that Andy Harris lost an election in a safe Republican seat in a district John McCain carried with 57% of the vote, has nothing to do with Jim Pallura or party tactics. It has to do with Andy Harris. Andy Harris has proven himself, not just to the voters of the Eastern Shore, but to many Republicans and many of his colleagues as an arrogant, out-of-touch Republican who thinks the world revolves around him. He seems to want to take no responsibility that his arrogance and his persona makes people not like him, and that is a large reason why Andy Harris lost the election. When you combine Andy Harris's unlikability factor with the fact that his campaign manager, Chris Meekins, ran an amateurish, buffoonish, pretty stupid campaign, if you ask me, it's no reason that Andy Harris failed to hold a Republican seat in a district where John McCain outperformed him by nearly 10%. It doesn't take rocket scientists to realize that the reason that Andy Harris is not a member of the United States Congress and the reason that we've lost this seat is Andy Harris. If Andy Harris wants to learn anything about leadership, maybe he should take a step back and take responsibility for his own shortcomings and not blame others for his loss. You know, a lot of Republicans like to use the axiom that the buck stops here. Well, it's starting to seem like Andy Harris wants to make sure the buck stops anywhere but on the footstep of Andy Harris. If Andy Harris wants to run for Congress again, or God forbid run for governor, as he intimated in a MD.com article this morning, if he wants to run for any elected office again as a Republican, he needs to take responsibility so that we all can move on. Andy Harris continued to try to blame everybody but Andy Harris for the reason that why he lost. It's a shame, and it goes back to something I said back during the primary, that Andy Harris behaves in a way that is unbecoming a member of the United States Congress. I think it's really unfortunate that Andy Harris wants to continue to do this, and I hope that he can learn something from this and actually take responsibility for his own defeat. Jim Pallura had nothing to do with Andy Harris's demeanor and his arrogance on the trail and his arrogance in dealing with those around him. That's not Jim Pallura's fault. That's Andy Harris's fault.